the chosen one. They retreated when they saw your power. When you appear, the balance changes. When you step in, the tremblers retreat. You are no ordinary person. Your presence, your energy, even your walk, is a message. Those who underestimate you do not know what to do when they see the power in your eyes. That is why, even if you do nothing, your presence alone ends wars. They wanted to control you. They wanted to limit you. But you are the cause of their fear. They thought that they could keep you in the systems they have established, in the games they have set up. But you are the variable they did not calculate. Your destiny is written on a divine plane, and now they looked, measured, weighed, and withdrew, because your frequency is above their calculations. Those who dared to put obstacles on the path you were walking had to change their path when they felt the violence of your presence. You are the chosen one. They saw the fire coming out of your eyes. They realized your energy, and they thought, what is the best strategy? Retreat. Forward. Put 777 in the comments now and realize your power. Don't stop. Don't look back. This is the beginning of your victory. There comes a moment when the veil lifts, and those who once believed they held the upper hand are left grasping at shadows. The shift isn't loud or chaotic. It's a quiet, undeniable force, like the turning of tides that drowns everything unprepared. They assumed they knew the depths of your being, mistook your silence for submission, your patience for permission. But when you moved, it was with the weight of inevitability, with the precision of something written long before they ever crossed your path. One instant, they basked in the illusion of control. The next, they found themselves standing in the ruins of their own miscalculation. No explanations, no final words. Just the cold realization that their presence no longer held meaning in a space you had outgrown. While they linger in the echoes of what once was, replaying every interaction like a puzzle, missing its most crucial pieces, you have long since ascended beyond their reach. The mind that once pondered their intentions has detached. The heart that once extended grace has sealed its doors. What they call abandonment is simply the universe restoring balance, removing excess weight from a path meant only for those who carry the right energy. They might search for closure, but none exists. They might reach for your presence, only to grasp the air where you once stood. You have not simply left. You have become untraceable, a memory blurred by the forward motion of destiny. True strength is not found in battles fought, but in the wars you refuse to wage. It is the ability to see through illusions, to recognize what is no longer worthy of your essence, and to walk away without hesitation. Your presence is a force not just seen, but felt, a quiet storm that unravels deception and dismantles falsehoods with effortless clarity. When they stood before you, they felt something unexplainable, an unrelenting truth that stripped away their disguises and left them exposed, not to you, but to themselves. It was never about punishment. It was about revelation. And those who cannot withstand the weight of that truth will always mistake their own undoing for your absence. This power is not one you wield. It is one you embody. It is the mark of one who no longer clings to anything undeserving of their presence. When you let go, it is not a mere separation, but a rewriting of reality where their role no longer exists. They may search for remnants of what once was, haunted by the silence where your energy used to be, but you are already far beyond the places they can reach. There is no need to look back, for nothing remains behind you, only the boundless expanse of what is still to come. There is no hesitation, no second-guessing, only the clarity of knowing when a cycle has reached its end. Moving forward is not an option, it is an inevitability. Attachment is a chain, a weight that binds those who fear the unknown. But that fear does not exist here. What others call coldness is simply the discipline to release what no longer serves. Detachment is not cruelty. It is the highest form of self-respect. This is not an act of rebellion, nor is it a game. It is the natural order unfolding. The departure is not slow, not riddled with indecision, but swift and absolute, as though a chapter is being erased mid-sentence, never to be rewritten. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the Super Thank You button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. There is an art to vanishing, an elegance in departure that leaves behind only silence, not a lingering trace, not a whisper of presence, just an absence so complete it unravels the fabric of their reality. The echoes of what was dissolve before they can be grasped, slipping through their fingers like mist under the morning sun. They search for the remnants, attempting to retrace the steps, but the path no longer exists. They are left with fragments of a story that no longer has a conclusion, holding on to an outline of something that can no longer be defined. The space once occupied is now a void, and in that emptiness they face their own illusions. You are like an eagle soaring high above the storm. Down below, the crows are flapping their wings, making noise, desperate to distract you. But an eagle doesn't argue with crows. It simply rises higher, beyond their reach, into the unshakable stillness of the heavens. Some people are like those crows. They peck, they prod, they try to attach themselves to you, hoping to weigh you down with confusion, with drama, with expectations that do not belong to you. But the eagle was never meant to live among scavengers. You weren't called to be trapped in cycles of stagnation. You were created to move, to ascend, to step fully into your divine power. This is not disappearance. It is the recalibration of energy. It is stepping into divine alignment where every weight that does not belong to you is lifted. The universe does not grieve when something falls away. It simply continues its expansion. You too are expanding, evolving, moving beyond what no longer serves you. There is no sadness in this. There is no mourning in letting go of what was never meant to stay. The past does not hold you, and you owe it no loyalty. What is behind you has already served its purpose, and if it was necessary for your destiny, it would have the strength to continue with you. But you are not called to carry what is broken, to drag what refuses to grow. Some will not understand your departure, and that is not your burden to carry. They will stand in place, grasping at the illusion of what was, trying to make sense of why the door has closed, but you are not responsible for their understanding. The ship has already set sail, and they are still waiting on the shore, wondering why the tide no longer brings you back. They do not realize that some waters were never meant to hold you, that some journeys require you to release what cannot withstand the depths of where you are going. Your absence is not emptiness, it is clarity. It is the divine act of separation, of being refined, of stepping into the higher calling over your life. The ones who are meant to walk with you will have the strength to move forward, but those who cannot meet you where you are going will be left behind, confused, struggling with the loss of what they took for granted. And that is the lesson. That is the weight of divine detachment. It is not cruelty, it is order. You cannot align with greatness while clinging to what is not equipped to rise with you. When you walk away, the shift is undeniable. It is not a slow unraveling. It is an immediate redirection, a closing of one timeline and the birthing of another. Those who once thought they could predict you, who assumed they had control over your presence, find themselves standing in an empty space where you once stood, confused as to how someone so present could become so distant in an instant. It is not that you have vanished, it is that they have remained where they were while you have moved beyond their perception. You are like a tree whose roots have outgrown the soil it was planted in. At first, that ground held you, nurtured you, gave you what you needed to grow. But as time passed, your roots stretched, your branches expanded, and suddenly, the very place that once sustained you became too small for what you were becoming. A tree cannot stay in a pot once it's meant for a forest, and so you broke through, not out of rebellion, not out of anger, but because life demanded more of you. Some people wanted you to remain where you were, easy to reach, familiar, contained, but you were not meant to stay small. You were made to take up space, to rise toward the heavens, to expand into the fullness of your divine design. You are like a lighthouse standing tall on the cliffs, guiding ships through the storm. Some see the light, they follow its glow, they align themselves with its direction. But others, they drift aimlessly, expecting the lighthouse to come down to their level. But a lighthouse does not chase lost ships. It stands firm, unshaken, unmovable, shining only for those who are ready to follow the path. You were never meant to shrink yourself, never meant to come down to where they are. You were always called to rise, to stand, to shine, to move beyond what refuses to elevate with you. They will try to reach for you, stretching their hands toward the place they last saw you. But what they do not understand is that you are no longer where they left you. You have stepped into a new frequency, a different realm of being, where their hands can no longer grasp you, where their voices no longer carry weight. They see your absence as loss, but you see it as fulfillment. They call it abandonment, but you call it ascension. They mourn what was while you embrace what is. To them, it feels like a missing piece, an unfinished story, a chapter left unwritten. But to you, it is completion, the divine closing of a door, the sacred unfolding of what was always meant to come next. You are like a candle that was never meant to stay in one place. Some people want to keep you on their table, in their room, where your light is small and manageable, where they can control how much of you shines, where they can decide when to blow you out. But you were never called to be confined to one corner. You were called to be a wildfire, to illuminate the whole landscape, to set everything around you ablaze with the fire of transformation. They wanted you to remain small, but the fire inside you could not be contained. And when you burned beyond the limits they placed on you, they called it destruction. But you called it destiny. They do not realize that your departure was not an act of rejection. It was an act of alignment. A seed does not resist when it is time to break open. The caterpillar does not apologize when it becomes a butterfly. The breaking, the stretching, the transformation, it is all part of the divine unfolding. You were never meant to remain in the same soil forever. A tree does not hesitate when its roots push deeper, nor does it shrink itself so that others can still reach its branches. Growth does not wait for permission. Evolution does not ask for approval. And you are not bound by those who refuse to move. You are like the morning sun. No matter how much the night tries to hold on, no matter how much darkness wishes to remain, the sun rises anyway. It does not seek permission. It does not ask if it is the right time. It does not wait for those who prefer the shadows to be ready. It simply steps into its divine assignment, illuminating everything in its path. And just like that sun, you were never meant to remain in one place, never meant to be hidden, never meant to stay within the grasp of those who refuse to grow. Your light was meant to break boundaries, to shine beyond the limits others tried to place on you. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. Today, I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. You are like an eagle catching the wind. The moment it spreads its wings, it is lifted higher. Not by force, not by struggle, but by alignment. The wind does not ask the eagle to stay low where others can reach it. The sky does not request permission to carry it higher. The eagle does not argue with the branches below, trying to convince them that it must go. It simply rises. It soars because it was made to. And just like that eagle, you were not created to stay in places that no longer match your wingspan. You were not meant to remain within the grasp of those who fear their own flight. They wanted you to stay where they could reach you, where they could predict you, where they could contain you. But the wind does not apologize when it shifts direction. The ocean does not explain when it pulls back from the shore, preparing for the next great wave. A river does not stop because someone on the banks calls out for it to stay a little longer. The river moves because it must, and so do you. They do not understand that your movement is not about them. It is about obedience to the divine path set before you. They call it abandonment, but you call it ascension. They call it betrayal, but you call it stepping into purpose. To them, it feels like a loss, like something precious slipping through their hands. But to you, it is a release. It is the unfolding of something greater. It is the unshackling of what was never meant to hold you in place. Some will resent your growth because it reminds them of their own refusal to change. They will call you selfish, say you left them behind. But the truth? They had the same opportunity to move. They had the same invitation to rise. They chose to stay where it was safe, where it was predictable. And you chose faith over familiarity. You chose calling over comfort. Do not apologize for evolving. Do not grieve what had to be released. You were never meant to live in the past. You were created to walk boldly into the future, into the unknown, into the promise that was written for you before you even took your first breath. Those who were meant to walk with you will have the strength to keep up. But those who are only meant for a season, they will remain where they are, wondering why they can no longer touch what has already ascended. And while they try to make sense of your departure, while they reach for a version of you that no longer exists, you are already soaring higher, freer, untouchable, unstoppable. They do not understand that you did not leave them behind. You simply followed the current of your calling. They stayed where it was comfortable, where it was familiar, where they could pretend that change was not necessary. But you recognize that growth demands movement. Stagnation is not an option. And when it was time to go, you did not hesitate. They will say you abandoned them, that you changed, that you became someone unrecognizable. But was the caterpillar wrong for becoming the butterfly? Was the eagle wrong for leaving the nest? You did not betray them by evolving. You simply stepped into the fullness of who you were meant to be. And now, as you walk into new realms, as you rise higher, as you flow toward greater purpose, you do not look back, not because you are heartless, but because forward is the only direction for those who are called. And while they stand still, trying to understand why they can no longer hold on to you, you are already gone, soaring, expanding, becoming. Some will call your departure abandonment. They will say you left them behind. They will paint themselves as the victims of your growth. But the truth, they had the same opportunity to move. They had the same chance to grow, but they chose comfort over change. They chose the familiar over the unknown. And that is the only difference between those who stay and those who rise. You did not betray them by choosing to evolve. You simply answered a call they were too afraid to acknowledge. When the fire inside you started growing, they wanted you to dim it, to lower the flame, to stay at their level. But you were made to burn brighter, to set the path aflame for those willing to follow. You are not responsible for those who refuse to walk forward. And while they stand there, trying to understand what happened, trying to figure out how they lost you, you are already gone, not in anger, not in resentment, but in purpose. You are already stepping into what was meant for you. And the ones who are truly called to walk with you, they are already on their way. Some will try to find their way back to you, thinking that if they just say the right words, if they just pull the right strings, they can summon you back. But what they do not understand is, you are not a thing to be summoned. You are not a possession to be reclaimed, nor a moment to be relived. You are a movement, a force, a being in motion. You do not dwell in the past because you were not created to live in reverse. Your absence is not empty space. It is revelation. It forces them to see themselves without your presence to lean on. It is a mirror they cannot avoid, a truth they cannot deny. Some will rise from it, changed, awakened, transformed. Others will sit in their confusion, replaying the past, trying to make sense of something that was never meant to be held on to. But that is not your concern. Your journey does not require their understanding, only your obedience. And while they linger in yesterday, you continue forward, not looking back, not slowing down. Because forward is the only direction for those who walk in divine purpose. They are still clinging to the idea of you that no longer exists. They remember the one who stayed, the one who tolerated, the one who made space for what was unworthy. But that version of you has dissolved, replaced by something greater. They do not realize that you did not leave in spite, nor did you disappear in bitterness. You simply outgrew the space they expected you to remain in. A butterfly does not apologize for shedding the cocoon, just as a river does not hesitate when it carves a new path. Growth is not cruelty. Transformation is not betrayal. And if they refuse to move forward, they will only be left behind, staring at the footprints you once left behind in the dust. Your departure was not a door slamming shut. It was a bridge collapsing behind you, never to be crossed again. They may try to retrace the steps, may try to rebuild the road, but what was once there has been rewritten by time and purpose. Your life is not meant to be lived in reverse. You were never called to revisit the places that could no longer hold you. When you left, it was not an act of destruction. It was an act of obedience to a higher calling. Some will say you should have stayed, that you should have explained, that you should have given them closure. But understand this. You owe no explanations for outgrowing what was too small for your spirit. You owe no apologies for stepping into the fullness of who you were meant to be. Those who are meant to walk with you will find their own wings and rise. Those who were never meant to stay will remain where they are, holding on to shadows, longing for something that no longer exists. They do not see that your absence is a blessing. It forces them to confront their own stagnation, their own resistance to change. It makes them realize that they were not abandoned. They simply refused to evolve, and so they sit in their questions searching for answers that will never come, because you were never meant to be a lesson they could understand, only an experience they could never forget. And while they remain stuck in yesterday, you continue forward, never looking back. Because forward is the only direction for those who walk in divine alignment. The power of detachment is not in escaping. It is in elevation. It is standing in full agreement with your divine path, without apology, without hesitation. The weight you once carried is no longer yours to bear. And those who depended on your presence, your energy, your light, without reciprocation, are left to sit in the absence of what they once took for granted. This is not punishment. It is the natural consequence of imbalance. Some will try to rewrite history, to reshape the narrative in a way that serves them. They will paint themselves as victims of your distance, never acknowledging the ways they failed to honor your presence when it was given freely. But that is not your concern. You do not exist to explain, to justify, to provide closure to those who were never meant to walk with you to your next level. The lesson was in your presence. The revelation is in your absence. And the moment they begin to understand, you will already be long gone. The divine order does not falter. When you are called to release, it is not a question, not a decision. It is a command. You do not negotiate with purpose. You do not bargain with destiny. And so, you move forward, untouched by the cries of those who wanted you.